Have you ever wondered what causes some YouTube videos to explode overnight while others get completely ignored? To find out, we studied thousands of viral videos, breaking down patterns, reverse engineering trends, and working with some of YouTube's biggest creators to figure out the real formula behind explosive growth. And let me tell you, YouTube isn't random. There's a system, a hidden set of rules that decide whether your video reaches millions or vanishes into the void. But here's one thing, every successful YouTube creator, whether they realize it or not, is following an invisible map that guides them through this system. And once you understand that map, you'll know exactly how to get views, grow your channel, and ultimately beat the YouTube algorithm in 2025. But before you can do this, you first need to understand how the algorithm actually works. You see, when it comes to the YouTube algorithm, the only thing you need to understand are two things. First is it's there to keep people on the platform for as long as possible, and second is the longer people stay on the platform, the more money YouTube makes. What this means is channels that create content that result in really high watch times are heavily favored by the YouTube algorithm. But there's a massive misconception about the algorithm that people have when it comes to people finding your videos. And it's the fact that viewers don't go into YouTube and then find your videos. Rather, it's YouTube that goes and finds videos for viewers. When you upload a video to YouTube, the algorithm will push it out to an audience that it thinks will watch your video. It does this based on something called viewer profiles. A viewer profile is basically the data that YouTube keeps on a user, whether it be the niches they're interested in, the YouTubers they watch, or what they look up in YouTube search. Once your video is public, the algorithm will find people who have previously watched your content, whether they are subscribed to you or not, and promote it to them alongside user profiles that are suited to your video's title and metadata. Now, depending on how the first audience interacts with your video, YouTube will then push your video out to a wider audience consisting of different user profiles. And this is why when your video is reaching a wider audience, it's common to see your click-through rate and average view duration drop. But to achieve that wider reach and expand your audience, there's only one way to do it, and that's with good ideas. Ideas are what make and break your channel, and your titles, thumbnails, script, and editing simply mean nothing if your ideas are bad. Take this video here. Can you spot what isn't so great? The thumbnail is actually pretty low quality, the elements are unbalanced and don't really fit together, the headshot doesn't fit with the background, and if we take a look at the Ryan Trahan style of thumbnail he was going for, you can see the difference. Just bear in mind, before this video, this creator averaged to about 2,000 views per upload. But trading a pen for a car in 1 week, that's a 1.4 million view idea, and it's exactly why this video blew up. So how do you know if your ideas are any good in the first place? Well, views are actually the biggest indicator of a good idea. And when it comes to views, there are actually 4 different routes that your channel can take. Route 1, be the first. If we take a look at Simon Squibb's video here, 30 years of business knowledge in 2 hours and 26 minutes, he was the first to upload this idea format in the business niche and managed to pull in over 9 million views. Route 2, be better. One of the best examples of this is MrBeast taking this video idea here from BeamNG and literally just stealing it for his own channel, transforming it into his own entertainment-driven format. Route 3, be different. Creator Finzar blew up his channel with his incredibly funny story-driven videos that was so different from anything else in the editing niche that his channel immediately stood out. So have a think of your unique qualities and how you might be able to stand out from your competition with them. Route 4, be fast. This approach can actually give you an advantage over well-established creators because while they're busy spending hours putting together expensive, high-quality content, you can fill the gaps in the market with pure speed. But knowing these 4 routes to get views isn't enough. You still need to know how to research and identify what a good YouTube idea is, because stealing bad ideas certainly won't help your channel. So what are the signs of a good idea? Well, if you take a look at other channels in your niche, you'll notice that sometimes a video will do exceptionally well for a creator with a much higher than average view count. This can either mean a high view count for a smaller channel or a video that has a much higher view count in comparison to a channel's average view count. These videos are called outliers and they're the best place to start your research. You can find outliers on your YouTube homepage, your suggested tab, or through search by researching channels in your niche. But one of the easiest ways to find them is to use a tool like 1 of 10 to search outliers from all across YouTube, track your competition, and simply study content that is actually working on the platform. Take this viral video for example. This idea was actually a result of combining 2 outliers found with the 1 of 10 tool, with clear ketchup being the main inspiration for the idea, and making aerogel the inspiration for the thumbnail. Having access to a search engine for viral ideas is literally one way to speedrun your YouTube success. If you're interested, you can click the link in the description and use code T50 for 50% off today. But we're not done with ideas just yet. there's one final approach to ideation that YouTubers like Mike Shape use to bring in tens of millions of views every month, and it has something to do with what we call viral vectors. To understand viral vectors, it's best to imagine an outlier video as a puzzle, with the different pieces being the reason behind a video's performance. Viral vectors are a piece of that puzzle that we first of all identify and then take to supercharge our own ideas. If you're looking for an official definition, a viral vector is a word, phrase, descriptor, action, or person that generates interest and typically leads to an overperforming video. To help you understand viral vectors further, I'm going to break down 2 videos we worked on with clients to show you just how well they work. First of all, in Mike Shake's video here, we used the viral vectors katana and transparent, which were both keywords that performed incredibly well in the weapons niche and across YouTube as a whole. And what happens when you get 2 viral vectors and combine them? Well, 20 million views apparently. If we pull in Barry Lewis's example here, we have a viral vector that's a little bit more niche specific, and that is the keyword air fryer. Using a range of different video formats, Barry actually reused this viral vector so many times to produce millions of views for his channel. But before we move on, there's just a couple of options left for ideation that we need to go through. First up is trend jacking. You can use sites like Google Trends to stay on top of trending topics and track your competition to stay aware of topics that might be taking off in your niche. When trend jacking, it's important to know that most videos you make won't be evergreen, meaning although you may pick up some immediate views, it's likely that when the hype dies off, your video will as well. And the final option simply involves a more mindful approach to ideation. When browsing YouTube, you're guaranteed to come across high-performing content in your feed across different niches. Building a habit of saving great video ideas, thumbnails, titles, or unique approaches to content can build up to an invaluable bank of information for you to refer to every time you make a video. Doing YouTube every week is an extremely creative process, and you can't just sit down and start from zero every time, expecting to be blessed with a viral idea. So you now have an idea in mind, but there's one final step, and that is to validate the idea and check if it's even a good one in the first place. To do this, you can search the title of your idea or variations of the title in the YouTube search bar. Sometimes an idea can be good, but you have a hard time getting views if the idea has been overdone and the market is just really saturated. If you find too many videos exist already, think back to the view system of first, better, different, and fast to weigh up your options. On the other hand, if no one is making videos on the idea that you've come up with, it might be a sign that an audience for that video doesn't even exist, but that isn't always the case. When I used to run an arts education channel, I noticed there was a gap in the market when it came to creating portfolios for art applications, and I ended up making 2 videos on the topic, bringing in almost 80,000 views between them. If you have a deep understanding of the content you're making, it's easier to spot whether your research is pointing you in the right direction or if it's simply a video idea that you just shouldn't go with. So now you've got your golden idea, and you need to work out how to market that idea to the world. How is that done? Well, with your title and thumbnail, of course. And unfortunately, a bad thumbnail and title can completely ruin a good video idea. So if you want to avoid destroying all the work you've just put in coming up with a great idea, you want to pay attention to this section. But instead of telling you what makes a good thumbnail, I've pulled a number of overperforming videos from different niches, and we're going to break down exactly what made them successful, so you can simply copy these techniques for your own channel. So let's get started. First up, I'm actually going to speak from a design perspective and talk about compositional balance. A good thumbnail design has a balance when it comes to the visual elements from left to right. If we take a look at this thumbnail from Mel Abraham, that resulted in a video performing 126 times higher than average. All of these thumbnail elements sit well with one another. The main subject is not competing with the text, and the text is not overwhelming the main subject, on top of a bright red minimal background. And speaking of color, you can see that hot colors are commonly used to highlight important text or subjects, as a bright red or orange is really eye-catching when browsing videos. When thinking about text, less is always more. If you can stick to around 5 words or fewer, it makes it far easier not only for people to read, but also understand the message of your thumbnail instantly. On YouTube, there are so many different approaches to thumbnails, from simple to more complex. There are branded designs, split designs, negative space designs, and more. When starting out, you need to learn how to steal winning formats in the same way we learned how to steal winning ideas. Once again, doing some research into thumbnail formats that are working outside of your niche niche and bringing them into your own is one approach to stand out. But your thumbnail is only 50% of the equation, because you can't be thinking about your thumbnail without your title in mind. Now, titles need to tell viewers what they will get, but still hide enough to be enticing to click on. Basically, you don't want to give away the whole story. Take these 3 examples. I bought an abandoned cabin in the woods, vacant for over 100 years. This AI tool is the biggest thing since ChatGPT, and I used a no recoil class to fight cheaters. When you read all 3 of these titles, you know what you're going to get in the video, but the scenario or the lack of detail generates enough curiosity to get us to start asking questions. Now, I know I just gave an example of a longer title, but just like your thumbnail text, it's best to keep your titles short and snappy, ideally no more than 50 characters. The reason why is titles are cut off past a certain point when browsing YouTube, so if it's too long, people just won't see it. But there's one big mistake that so many creators make, and it's repeating your title in the thumbnail. If we look at these 3 examples here of videos that did exceptionally well, we can see how the text in the thumbnail is completely different from the title. Emotionally charged text such as "the truth about," "the secret to," and "you won't believe," in combination with good titles, act as triggers that force your viewers to click. When coming up with a thumbnail and title, always ask yourself, if I saw this title, would I click? If I were my audience suffering from this problem and desiring this thing, would I be interested in watching this video? A key thing to remember is that thumbnails and titles are mostly just about psychology, and simply changing a bad title such as "My first vlog in Japan" into something like "I found 3 secret restaurants in Japan and here's what happened" can be the difference between your channel growing or completely failing. So you now have your idea, title, and thumbnail, but there's a really important question you have to ask yourself next. And that is, what kind of video are you going to make? A short, a long form video, a live stream? On YouTube, format matters and will literally define things like your income, your views, and the way that you approach making content. So let's have a look at the different types of videos you can make and when to use them. The typical YouTube video is the long form format between 8 and 15 minutes long, and it's this type of video that is YouTube's bread and butter. At least it has been until now. Today, it's now incredibly common to see videos between 20 and 30 minutes long, performing great for channels, so we'll also add those to what is typical under the long form label. When audience engage with a long form video, the more time they spend watching, the more they connect with a creator at a deeper level. From a content creator's perspective, this time frame allows for more in-depth content and the opportunity to use storytelling techniques to build a larger narrative. Refining these techniques results in more watch time for your channel, and the more watch time you manage to accumulate, the more your channel will be favored in the algorithm. But at the end of the day, YouTube needs to make money, and long form content, 8 minutes and above, allows for mid-roll ads, which is one of the best options for monetizing your videos. Now, longer doesn't always mean better though. The type of content you're making should justify the length, or you'll end up with comments like, "This could have just been a short, bro." A 5-minute value-packed video is far better than a 15-minute ramble. Long form works if you can be engaging for really long periods of time. Value is absolutely everything. But speaking of that 5-minute format, let's move on to short long form. Short long form videos tend to fall around that 2 to 5 minute mark in the standard horizontal format. You may see a lot of comedy skits in this format, but quick, valuable educational content is also common. These slightly shorter videos are a great way to start testing your long form content skills, whether it be practicing a more storytelling approach, seeing how long an average edit takes you, or writing a script without having to worry about trying to hit that 10 to 15 minute mark. But sometimes the creator has so much value to provide, both short and long form videos aren't enough, and that's where the super long format comes into play. A super long form video can be several hours long, with some videos reaching as long as 8 to 12 hours. One of the reasons they can do well is because the YouTube algorithm heavily favors watch time. And with more and more viewers flocking to their TVs to watch long form content, it's no surprise super long form content is blowing up all over the platform. These videos are commonly in-depth educational courses, often targeting a dedicated audience within a specialized niche. This is also a good time to mention chapters, which are timestamps you can add to your video to help viewers more easily navigate long form content, and they improve the viewer experience. Podcasts can also be considered as super long form, and they even now have their own dedicated section on YouTube. But maybe long form just isn't your thing, and doing the extreme opposite and producing shorts might be what you want to do. YouTube Shorts was YouTube's answer to TikTok. Their videos in a vertical format up to 3 minutes long, with their own dedicated section on YouTube, and they're all about speed. Capturing someone's attention who is scrolling through YouTube Shorts is a completely different ballgame to long-form content. Most viewers in long-form content tend to leave the video in the first 30 seconds, but with Shorts you have to hook them from the first second and try to hold them until 5 seconds to even register a view. Shorts have the potential to have a very wide reach and pick up views very quickly because the Shorts feed can be browsed at speed by the millions of viewers on YouTube. But Shorts do appeal to audiences with short attention spans, so question whether making short-form content is going to attract the kind of audience that you want long-term for your channel. Shorts do have the potential to gain exposure incredibly fast, where a single viral short can cause a massive spike in views and subscribers rather than what is usually a slower, more gradual build up in long form. But there are upsides and downsides to Shorts. Upsides: they are much quicker to produce. You can even shoot and edit them entirely on your phone with captions. The low barrier of entry means you can also post more frequently. If long form is the full course meal, Shorts are like quick, tasty snacks. You can use Shorts to showcase a single strong idea, a quick story or transformation, and they can also be used to funnel viewers into long form if the content is related. The downsides: first of all, Shorts monetization is very limited. Ad revenue sucks compared to long-form videos. Another tricky aspect to navigate is the type of audience you're attracting. An audience with a short attention span who subscribe for you for funny, quick 30-second videos is likely to be less interested in a 20-minute long-form video. Bear in mind, even though you can gain a ton of views and subscribers from Shorts, those subscribers may not convert into long-form viewers at all. So think of Shorts as a way to engage with trends or provide quick value. Live streams. Live streams allow you to connect with your viewers in real time via video and chat. This is a fantastic way to engage with your community by responding to comments and questions instantly and commenting on real-time feedback. Live streams are great for Q&As, hangouts, live educational demonstrations, launching a product, breaking news, or even playing games with your subscribers. The great thing about lives is once they're done, the video can still attract people to your channel and can be customized with a thumbnail just like any other long-form video. Due to the fact that a typical live stream is also an hour or two long, this further strengthens viewer loyalty to your channel. Even if the viewers are a bit lower than your usual numbers for your videos, the viewers who do show up are highly engaged. But as enticing as live streaming might sound, it does come with challenges. First are the technical challenges such as the streaming software, the audio setups, the technical hiccups. And the technical hiccups are not uncommon even among some of the largest creators on the platform. For an engaging video from start to finish, they also require a lot of preparation in advance. So if you're used to following a script for a video and hiding the fact that you messed up a line like 13 times, while attempting to think on your feet and constantly engage with your audience might be a bit of a high pressure experience for you. So how do you choose what kind of video format fits your content best? Well, you've got to think about your goals for your content. If you're looking to explore a topic deeply, then this probably suits long form content. As for quick tips or an entertaining clip, Shorts are ideal, or short long form. If you built a community that you want to engage with or prove that you're credible in what you do, then a live stream might be a good choice for you. Just note that YouTube treats Shorts separately from your long form, so uploading a mix of Shorts and long form won't affect the distribution of either, but remember that the kinds of audiences that they attract are fundamentally different. So you have your chosen video format, and now you've got to create a journey for your audience to go on. Your video script is that journey, and even if your content is more spontaneous, it's absolutely key to have a structure in place that focuses on maximum engagement. But there's one golden rule to remember when scripting a video. The first 30 seconds of a video will define its success. If your script's opening lines don't grab the attention of your viewers, they'll simply click off, and it will signal to the YouTube algorithm that your video simply isn't worth promoting. To stop this from happening, YouTubers use a variety of hooks to convince viewers to keep watching. The first thing that you must understand is your initial hook comes into play before anyone even clicks on your video. Your title and your thumbnail are your first hook, so when scripting your intro, you need to match the expectation that you set up in the title and thumbnail so that your viewer doesn't feel cheated. To do this, reflect on your title and thumbnail and think about what kind of content your viewer will expect from your video. It's good practice to repeat your title in the introduction of your video alongside a visual hook that closely matches your thumbnail. But repeating the title and the thumbnail is only the first step, and there are actually 3 types of common hooks YouTubers use to keep an audience watching. First is a statement hook, and it can look something like this.
So we often think that the opposite of distraction is focus, but this isn't actually true.
The goal of a statement hook is to create enough intrigue to make your viewers want to know what happens next. The second kind of hook is a good way to directly engage with your viewers' pain points. Let's take a look at another one of Ali Abdaal's intros here to see how he hooks his audience.
If you're interested in making money online, enough money to potentially even quit your job, then hopefully you'll get a lot of value from this video.
Did you spot what he did there? A question hook that gets your audience to reflect on problems that they are currently facing is a great way to set yourself up to be the one providing the solution. Now, the final kind of hook is actually slightly more creative, and it's a great way to make your content feel more unique, and that's a story hook. A story hook simply uses an analogy or immediately builds a narrative to introduce a topic. Say you are explaining the importance of YouTube thumbnails. You could use an analogy such as, YouTube is like shopping at the supermarket. There are so many different products competing with each other for attention, and it's your job to create the most attractive packaging to get your viewers to choose your product. Using analogies to get your audience to experience those aha moments is an instant credibility booster. One misconception about hooks though is that they only appear at the start of a video. If you're really looking to carry your viewers from the beginning of the video all the way to the end, you'll need to rehook your viewer at the beginning of each section of your video, whether this be teasing more value that's coming up in the video or setting up a new problem to be solved. You need to find creative ways to reignite that anticipation in your viewer so that they feel the need to keep watching. Other kinds of hooks you'll want to note in your scripting phase may also involve visual hooks, where an image or an interesting idea for your B-roll might come to mind and you make a note of where you'd like to put that in your script. To plan ahead for any visual text that might be shown in your final edit, highlighting important phrases or keywords in advance will make choosing any quotes you might want to put in your video edit so much faster. But there's another kind of hook that you can easily catch during your scripting stage, and it has to do with the rhythm of your speech. You see this zigzag pattern here? What this is showing is the variation in the length of my sentences, and it's actually what's stopping my delivery from sounding incredibly boring. If you speak in the same amount of words for each sentence and simply not really change the pace of your speech, it sounds really repetitive and people stop watching. You see what I mean? So when in doubt, use the zigzag. But there's one last hook that can force your viewers into binge watching sessions on your channel, and it comes right at the end. Setting up a new problem or question to hook your audience to clicking your end screen video is a great way to build up a load of watch time from a single viewer. If you can get people to click on your end screen videos, this signals to the algorithm that people really like your content, so don't forget to script a hook in for this. But there's also a big mistake a lot of YouTubers fall into, and that's going from a hook straight into a list of facts and heavy information without any thought into how that information is being presented. People absolutely love stories, so it's no surprise that when YouTubers use elements of storytelling in their videos, viewer engagement goes through the roof. Channels like Mr. Who's the Boss and Mike Shake have mastered the art of YouTube storytelling, and they use 4 techniques in particular to keep their viewers glued to their seats. Technique number 1, the heartbeat of your story. Good storytelling requires structure. When telling stories, a lot of people simply use "and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened" to build their narrative, which is extremely boring to listen to. Instead of using "and then" repeatedly, use "but" and "therefore" to create conflict and resolution. This keeps stories engaging by introducing obstacles that drive curiosity to keep viewers watching. An example of this would be, it was only 1 hour before the application deadline, so I decided to have one final look before submitting. But suddenly I realized there was something deeply wrong with my portfolio. I had completely forgot to add the most successful project I did all year. Therefore, and the story goes on. Technique 2, movement. The but and therefore principle isn't the only way to keep a story moving, and for this example, can you spot what Life of Riza does here with her content?
Not necessarily the prettiest process, but definitely a humbling one. A fresh start, a clean slate. Sometimes we just need a new beginning.
Life of Riza is absolutely killing it with cinematic dynamic visuals that play out like you're watching a film at the cinema. Technique number 3, finding your story. It's always easier to get somewhere if you know what your destination is in advance, and YouTube videos are no different. Instead of beginning your story at the start, reverse engineer it by writing the conclusion first. The key moment, your 5-second moment, should represent a transformational lesson, and crafting a journey to that destination is so much easier starting backwards. Technique number 4, stakes. Raising stakes keeps audiences on the edge of their seats. Ryan Trahan's Penny series is an incredible example of this, where a $50,000 donation to his cause could reset his progress at any time during the series. Whether the stakes are a physical danger or a personal challenge, they're an emotional hook to keep viewers watching. To summarize storytelling on YouTube, you're simply looking to create some form of tension to keep your audience wondering about something, and then relieving that tension with some form of resolution or payoff. But I do realize that sometimes scripting can be a real headache, so here are a few tips to first make it easier, and second of all, make it quicker. Tip number 1, Keep it concise. Attention spans are only becoming shorter and shorter, so every time you ramble, a chunk of your viewers will leave your video. A golden rule in script writing is if a line doesn't add value or move the video forward, cut it. You'll also want to keep in mind the kind of visuals you may or may not want to be putting on top of your footage, whether it be graphics or cinematic shots, and make sure that the tone of your script matches. Tip 2. Structure. Just like this map of YouTube video is divided into clear sections, you'll want to do the same with your video. When writing, I tend to start off with a brief overview and a load of bullet points before properly fleshing out the script. For example, if I were doing a 5 tips video, I'd write a title for each tip and some thoughts on what I'm going to do for each point before doing further research and preparing the script for recording. Once you finish your script, reflect on the overall structure and see if reordering the information in a different way might make it easier for your viewer to understand. A call to action, otherwise known as a CTA, is something you'll also want to think about. Try to avoid calling people to do something like subscribe or offer your services until you've provided them with at least some value beforehand. If you try to sell your audience something before you've even provided any value, they'll just leave. Finally, a first draft is never a final draft, so taking a step back and having a rest from writing to approach your script again with a fresh eye is good practice. Tip 3. Delivery. Even if you're scripting every single word of your video, you don't want it to sound scripted when presenting. You'll want to address your audience in a way that makes them feel like you're a friend sitting down and having a chat with them. Now, this can be really difficult to get right because you want to sound engaging enough to be entertaining, but at the same time not come across as being preachy or like an actor. Now, simply putting in the hours is something that will help you refine that presentation, but there are a few ways to make the delivery of your script a little bit easier. First is when writing, read your draft out loud. If it sounds strange when speaking it out, then you'll know you need to go back and change a few words here and there. But if you really get too caught up in reading, some creators prefer to keep their script as bullet points and just use them as a guide rather than speaking it out word for word. Second is addressing your viewer directly using you instead of talking about people do this. This will not only help your viewers feel more connected to you, but will also make it seem like you're talking to someone one-on-one. Another way to create the same effect is to pose questions to your viewer or use phrases such as, "Now you might be wondering, does this actually work?" Third is to keep formal language out of your script. If you're writing phrases such as, "Therefore, we can conclude that," you might want to change it to something along the lines of, "So here's the thing." So now you have your refined script, you're going to have to think about what you actually need to put your video together. So let us enter the giant world of YouTube gear. Now, you may have heard from some creators that gear doesn't matter. That's a lie. Gear does matter, but it's not everything, and some gear certainly matters more than other gear. There's low budget gear and high budget gear, but your knowledge of what to do with the equipment that you have is far more important than just having pricey gadgets. Someone who has no idea what they're doing can make really expensive gear look terrible, and vice versa. When starting out, it's best to use what you have, and as you improve the quality of your content through other means like your storytelling, editing, and presentation, you can slowly upgrade your gear bit by bit. But if you are someone starting from zero, it does make sense to prioritize upgrading gear in a certain order. So let's go through that order and take a look at both low budget and high budget options. First is your audio. It doesn't matter how good your video is, if your audio is bad, it's the quickest way to get rid of people. Budget options include lavalier mics that you can get for around $20, or small wireless clip-on mics such as the Rode Wireless Me. If you've got money to spend, one of the most popular mics on YouTube belongs to the Shure range and is the mic you'll see most creators using in podcasts and talking head videos. When recording, you want to record in a quiet environment and ideally have the microphone as close to your face as possible. A cheeky hack if you're just looking to record a voiceover is to hide yourself under a soft cover that acts as a homemade kind of sound booth for an extra crisp finish. Next up is lighting. Light is totally free if you're sitting facing a window, just don't film with the window behind you or you'll be sitting in shadow. But if you're looking for a more stable setup, a ring light is a great start, or a softbox from a company like Newer will only cost around $50 to get you started. For high-end lighting, looking at more powerful lights with larger softboxes and grids to direct light is one way to produce a softer effect. As a bonus, think about decorating your background with extra lights produced by RGB lights and also buying a fill light to separate yourself from your background. But bear in mind, good lighting can make footage from a cheap camera look fantastic, whereas bad lighting can even make an expensive camera look really bad. And speaking of cameras, that brings us onto our second piece of gear. If you don't already have a DSLR camera, you can start with as little as your phone and a pile of books for a tripod. You'll want to use the camera on the back of your phone as it's higher quality, and the most important aspect will be making sure that you have a stable shot. As for quality, you don't have to worry about producing 4K videos to start. 1080p will get you far, and as a bonus, it won't blow up your computer when you try and edit. For a budget setup, your phone with a simple tripod setup is very affordable, with many different options being available to you on sites like Amazon. For those looking for a higher end setup, the world of DSLR cameras is absolutely huge, but the Sony A series cameras are popular amongst YouTubers, with a 35mm or 50mm lens being the perfect choice to shoot talking head videos with. But there's one final piece of gear you've got to think about, and that's your editing rig. For some people, editing will start from their phone using CapCut or from their laptop or PC with DaVinci, both of these options being completely free. But depending on how editing heavy your content is, you may need to invest in a beefier PC with a higher end graphics card and buy a subscription to Adobe's Creative Cloud to gain access to programs such as Adobe After Effects. If you have even more of a budget to work with, hiring an editor early on is actually one of the best choices you can make as a YouTuber, as it frees up so much time to focus on creating more content. So now you have all your gear, you're equipped for the job, and the big moment has now come. It's time to film your video. There are multiple things that can go wrong while filming, and the last thing you want to do is put an hour of your time into filming a video just to realize that your microphone wasn't even plugged in. To solve these issues, it's best to have a checklist. And mine tends to look something like this. First of all, check your camera batteries and make sure that they have enough charge in them for your filming. Check any other devices that may also need charging, such as wireless microphones. Next, you'll want to set up your lighting, positioning your key light and any other lights in the appropriate places for your desired look. Then once your lighting is set up, set the white balance of your camera so that your image doesn't end up looking too warm or too cool. At this point, you may want to record a few seconds and quickly go over to check the footage on your editing software to see if everything just looks okay. Finally, before you hit that record button, check that your microphone is registering with your camera. Now, this checklist certainly stops things going wrong before you record, but there are a number of problems you may have to face during filming. So to help prevent those problems, here are a few tips. Tip 1. Take a look at these two clips and note what's making a difference. Did you know that over 50% of our communication is through body language alone? So if you've positioned your shot too close, you might be cutting your viewer engagement in half without even saying a single word yet. When setting up the composition of your shot, make sure that your body and your hands are visible. Sometimes your hands do a better job at speaking than you. Tip 2. When presenting, you'll want to look at the camera lens directly. Looking at the viewfinder kind of sticking out on the side will result in your eyes looking slightly off, which can be quite uncomfortable for your viewers. Tip number 3. Now, I guess this is also kind of a bonus addition to your gear, but one hack pro YouTubers use all the time is using a teleprompter to speed through their scripts while making little mistakes. It may take some time to get used to, but if you're like me, messing up your lines 2, 3, or 4 times, this could potentially double the speed of your recording, which also means you spend way less time editing too. Tip number 4. My last tip just relates to the fact that a DSLR camera won't let you record for over 30 minutes. So just to be safe, I set a timer on my phone to alert me when I've been recording for about 28 minutes so I can get up and then start a new video. If you don't do that, well, your camera might just stop recording and you'll have to go film all over again. Speaking from experience here. So you tried your best to film an engaging presentation, but it's only the first layer of your video production. The next layer is the icing on the cake, and you can really enhance your video drastically, not only increasing your viewer engagement, but also giving your video some personality. And that is your editing, of course. There are so many different ways to go about editing, but there are 3 core layers that make up almost every single video on YouTube. And that is your A-roll, which is your talking head footage, your B-roll, which is the footage that goes on top of your A-roll, and your sound design. Mastering all 3 layers takes a lot of time, but I'm going to give you some key techniques that will have the biggest impact on your content. First of all is be as ruthless as you can when it comes to cutting down your footage. In the same way you cut lines out of your script that didn't move the video forward, do the same with your edit. If something can be removed and the video still makes sense, get rid of it. This might mean that you remove parts of the video that you might really like, but you've got to be harsh when it comes to maintaining maximum value and engagement in your videos. To keep things upbeat, use jump cuts to get rid of long pauses, repetitive speaking, or anything that might give someone the chance to click off of your video. We all have a limited amount of time when we edit, and it's simply not possible to make every single edit perfect when you're just starting out. So instead, focus on making the first 30 seconds of your video the best it can possibly be, and allocate most of your editing time there. To do this, you'll want to add a variety of B-roll to visually represent what you're saying. This could involve cinematic clips, stock footage, images of what you're talking about, adding text to highlight important information or display a quote. short animations, graphics, or clips from other people's content. Now, your visuals are the first layer of editing, but another way to increase viewer retention is to focus on your sound design. Always remember that viewers can tolerate mediocre visuals, but if your sound is bad, it's one of the fastest ways to get rid of your audience. To ensure that you don't annoy everyone, make sure that the audio of your voice is consistent and clear. This might mean slightly lowering the volume of some louder sections and vice versa. If you're planning on adding background music, you'll also want to keep it low so that it doesn't start competing with your voiceover. But sound design becomes top tier when you start adding proper sound effects. Adding whoosh sounds to anything that moves, using click or text sounds for transitions, and then building tension with risers are all commonly used effects that just bring your editing to the next level. Then all that's left to do is to render your video in the highest quality possible, whether that be HD or 4K, and pray that your computer doesn't explode. But of course, even once you've rendered and uploaded your video, your YouTube journey is only just getting warmed up. Because once your video goes out into the world, you're going to head over to your analytics tab and be bombarded with a load of data that, if you don't know how to interpret, you may end up actually damaging your channel. So let's take a look at YouTube analytics. Once you upload your video, a few things are going to happen. First of all, YouTube is going to put your video in front of an audience that the algorithm believes is right for your content. On YouTube analytics, your impressions are the number of people who have been shown your video either in YouTube search, the homepage, or the suggested bar. Your CTR, which is your click-through rate, is then defined by the number of clicks divided by the number of impressions times 100. Generally speaking, a click-through rate between 5 and 10% is ideal, and I'll tell you exactly why. First is, an insanely high click-through rate might actually not be as positive as you think. A video with a smaller number of impressions but a really high click-through rate might mean that your video is only appealing to a super niche audience or your loyal viewers, and therefore the algorithm is not pushing it out to a wider audience. On the other hand, a video that has a higher number of impressions with a lower click-through rate suggests that YouTube is pushing your video out to a wider audience, and the click-through rate is lower because a colder audience is less likely to click on your video. And when your video is pushed out to a wider audience, that is how your video picks up more views and new people are introduced to your channel, aka it's a video that's growing your channel. So don't always assume that a lower click-through rate is bad. Just as a note, do note that if your thumbnails are sitting between that 0.something% to 3% range, you will need to make some adjustments. But CTR won't really matter if someone clicks your video, they get bored, and then they just leave. And that's exactly what your video retention will show you. If you head over to the engagement tab, you can also have a look at your video's retention graph. As you improve the quality of your content, this will naturally increase, but focus on identifying the videos that held viewers the most in the first 30 seconds and try and figure out why they did. If you can improve audience retention in those first 30 seconds, this will increase the chances of them sticking around for the rest of the video. But despite all the data that YouTube gives you, views are actually the best metric to understand whether your ideas are actually good or not. And early on, you simply won't have much data to work with. So don't get too caught up worrying about your click-through rate and your retention when your videos aren't even picking up that many views to begin with. Now, if you actually work on every aspect of YouTube we've covered in this video, the algorithm will start pushing your videos out and grow your channel. But we've covered a lot of information, and sometimes knowing where to start and what to improve can feel really overwhelming. So to complete this map of YouTube, we'll finish off with some guidance on how to level up your content and fix your channel if it's stuck in that low view prison. If I didn't emphasize it enough earlier, ideas are absolutely everything on YouTube. So if you haven't spent time understanding what a good idea is, focus on that aspect of YouTube first. It's the core reason why most videos don't get views. Once you do have a list of great ideas to test, you want to focus on leveling up one skill at a time. Remember that you can't master everything at once, so just choose to tackle your number one biggest problem. Is your CTR low? Work on your thumbnails until they hit about 5%. Does your retention suck? Work on your storytelling and video structure to keep viewers around in those first 30 seconds. One of the most important things to do early on is to upload consistently and as frequently as you can, because it takes time to get a YouTube channel moving. But once you do build some momentum, there are actually 5 big mistakes that small creators make that completely kill their channels. So you might want to click here to learn how to avoid those mistakes.